We're talking about how you can get involved in the fight against puppy mills on today's BFD. All this week, we're showing you innovative ways to help save dogs and cats from needlessly dying in shelters. The Best Friends Animal Society is taking that innovation to the next level. Their national initiatives do everything from protecting pit bulls against discrimination to peacefully protesting pet stores who buy from puppy mills. And today we are talking to Francis Battista, who's going to tell us all about how you are helping save all of the future best friends.
Well, thank you, Marisha. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, there were so many P's in that.
I know, it's tough. Best Friends is a national animal welfare organization. Our base of operations is a 3,000-acre reserve in southern Utah that's home to about 1,700 to 2,000 dogs, cats, horses, farm animals.
It's like a dog paradise.
It is. It's actually the nation's largest sanctuary for abandoned and abused animals. But from there, and from the ethic that grew out of that, comes all of the other work that we do. So really what Best Friends is about, our mission, is to bring about a time when there are no more homeless pets, a very high-level vision of a future where animals are highly valued, where they're treated as they deserve to be treated, as they would be in your home or in my home.
Right.
And we're a long way from that. And our sort of first stop in that journey is to end shelter killing. So we are part of a larger no-kill movement, and Best Friends really is one of the leaders of the national no-kill movement.
Right.
And so all of the initiatives that we come at, whether it's puppy mills, pit bulls, you name it, relates to the impact that these activities have on shelter populations and the killing of homeless pets. Each of these situations, whether it's pit bulls or puppy mills, they have issues of their own related to cruelty and all of the horrors that go along with, dog fighting or puppy mills or, any of these things. Where we come at it from is the impact that all of these activities have on shelter populations. So that's kind of where Best Friends lives.
And before we go on with hearing about what you guys do, tell us a little bit about what exactly is a puppy mill and how are they different from certified breeders?
A certified breeder is, I don't know what a certified breeder is. There are licensed breeders, and most puppy mills are licensed. USDA licensing is very lax. So for example, it would be quite legitimate for a beagle to spend its entire life in a cage the size of a dishwasher. Yeah. That's legitimate under the USDA regulations.
And they're just being bred repeatedly.
So it's forced breeding. Think of factory farming as a good sort of lead into the whole concept of what a puppy mill is like. And it's a commercial operation, so really you're dealing with incremental sales units and things like that. So the animals become commodities. And we used to have a tagline, puppies aren't products. And so if you think, well, okay, they're manufacturing puppies the way someone would manufacture a toaster. So when you're thinking about, well, how do we get the unit price down? You get the unit price down on a toaster, you change a handle from metal to plastic, or you come up with a cheaper way of doing something. The way you get unit price down for an animal is to either put more of them in a given space, so smaller space per animal, cut back on the care that's provided in terms of the number of people who are looking after them, or get a lot more production out of them by breeding them as frequently as possible, or cut back on the quality of food, veterinary care, et cetera, et cetera. So the margins, profit margins, all come out of literally the hide of the animal. And so it's incredibly cruel activity, a puppy mill. It's a factory farm for puppies. And they have them for cats and just about every other kind of animal.
I was going to say, do they have them for cats as well?
It's less of an issue, but in some places, and you hear about it quite frequently, it is an issue. So I think what you're talking about when you say a certified breeder is probably talking about probably a hobby breeder or someone who breeds for the love of the animal. They're more fussy about where the animal goes than say a rescue person. They're kind of, so they guarantee the health of the animal. They make sure they're not breeding animals that have congenital defects. They stand behind the sale of the animal. They want to make sure that that animal is well. If it doesn't work out, they want the animal back. They're very, very attentive. That's a different universe.
Right.
The puppy mill is simply a crank them out, often inbred, often have genetic and hereditary issues, and frequently they will, because of the abnormal whelping and weaning is a technical term for you. So, whelping, when the puppies are born and the way they're weaned, and they grow, they're jammed into a confined space with their mother. who is already overbred, who's probably suffering from a variety of malnourishment type conditions. So the puppies then are all of the normal weaning procedures that a mother, if you had a puppy and you had say you had a dog at home who had a litter of puppies, and you'd set up a space and it would be their private space, and then they have a little box and a little
right.
barrier.
Have their own designated blanket.
Yeah, and a little barrier so that
Right.
the mommy could get out and so the puppies can't follow her, so she can get her time alone in her
Right.
space. And not the case. In puppy mill, they're all jammed together all the time. Very unnatural. And a lot of those kind of behavior issues translate then to later life for the dog as it grows. So behavioral issues, health issues, all those things follow puppy mill animals quite frequently. So in doing the pet store protests and educational demonstrations that we've done, we found loads of people who would come, oh, I bought a dog from here and it's been sick and I took it back, and all they would do is give me my money back, but we're already attached to it. We don't want to take the money back, so we had to go to the vet and it cost this and that, and now there's cruelty involved in the act and the process of puppy mill breeding. There's cruelty that's carried along in terms of the genetics
right.
and behavioral issues. But again, is where we come at it from is that these puppies now are competing with shelter animals for homes, and they themselves wind up in shelters quite frequently, so that it's been estimated that 25% of shelter animals are purebred. So where are they coming from? Well, they're coming from a variety of places, but mostly from commercial breeding operations.
And it's a fairly common misconception that if you go to a pound, you're not going to get a purebred animal.
Exactly. There are lots of purebred animals in pounds and in the shelter. The point here is that the whole puppy mill operation is really a disaster from start to finish.
Right.
Historically, the way this has been approached is by, I'm sure you've seen it, the undercover video, they have the puppies out in all kinds of weather,
sure.
and they have an expose, and then it blows up and a lot of noise and a terrible thing and all of what's going to happen, and then it goes away. This has been going on for decades. Recently, and something that Best Friends has really latched onto, is related to consumer and consumer demand. And it's a bit like the analysis, or there is an analogy, I think, to things like the drug trade and that sort of thing, where if you're going after the supply all the time, really what you want to get is to the demand. So from our perspective, going to the point of sale and educating the consumer is the most effective way to actually cut into that market. Because you can stand out in the middle of Missouri by the side of a country road with a sign, all you like. You're not going to dissuade a lot of consumers.
Yeah, you're not going to reach a lot of people.
But if you actually get to where the people are buying and say, look, I know they're going to tell you inside that this puppy was bred by the most wonderful people in the world. But here's where this place was bred. They have X number of violations against them. They breed this number of animals. This is a puppy mill, and that's where these folks are getting their animals from. So it's that kind of information that we've been providing.
So can these puppy mills get fined by, you were saying, like the USDA?
Yes, but usually it's for things like, they have insufficient water, or the not adequate, the roof, a leaky roof, or something like that.
It's a slap on the wrist.
It's a slap on the wrist, and usually it's for very nominal, because the threshold of legality is so low.
Right. And you mentioned before that there's a demand behind this and the commercialism of the puppy mill. Is a lot of that being driven from these fad dogs or these fad animals that are being sensationalized by the media?
Well, every time, you have, so for example, the classic was, 101 Dalmatians.
Right, all the Dalmatians.
So, oh, Dalmatians. Okay,
Yeah.
so then so the Dalmatians start coming, and then they start winding up in the shelter and in rescue.
Right.
And then it was, Yo quiero Taco Bell. It's the Taco Bell dog, and that then goes on for a period of time, and then some celebrity seen on a red carpet with something, and then everybody wants that.
Right.
So that drives a lot of this, but it's not exclusively that. I mean, there's all sorts of things that drive it, but that's one of the things that push these kind of fads. And in Southern California, which is where a lot of our pet store demonstrations and things have taken place, there's a huge problem in the shelters with small breed dogs. I mean, we have a program called Pup My Ride.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Pup My Ride
Because it's an adorable name.
It is a wonderful name, yeah. And obviously it's there's encroaching on the Pimp My
Right, yeah.
Pimp My Ride. But yeah, Pup My Ride is a really cute thing. And there are a number of communities around the country where small dogs just are not that common. So if, for example, if you go to Salt Lake or Seattle or some of these places and you want to adopt, being a good citizen, go to a rescue and you want to adopt a small dog, they just don't have them in the shelters or in the rescues. So then, for quite legitimate reasons, an older person, someone who has lives in a small place,
right.
someone who can't manage a large pet, or they just want a small dog.
Right.
Perfectly reasonable. They don't have that option. They can't find it to adopt. So they then go, we are the rescue world and the humane communities, because for lack of being able to provide them with that adoptable small dog, are going to the breeder or the pet store or whatever. So Pup My Ride is about taking these dogs that are in very high demand in some cities and loading them up and driving them away. We will vet them and hold them for a period of time, make sure they're all healthy, and then take them to places where they are guaranteed adoption, and we'll stand behind them to make sure that those animals are adopted. Yeah. And so we're accomplishing two things, well, several things. We're making sure that these animals aren't dying in a shelter where there are just so many of them that they're not all going to get adopted.
Right.
We are then interfering or cutting across the pet trade at another consumer point, and saving a lot of lives and having fun doing it.
When you say that they are guaranteed adoption, does that mean that the demand is so high, or that there are people who have already signed up that they're ready to take
both? A lot of these places do have waiting lists, but
okay.
Basically what we're saying is that the organization that we're sending them to is guaranteeing that they will ensure that this dog gets adopted, or they will return it to us and not euthanize.
Gotcha. And kind of going back on to NKLA, which we have all of these amazing promotional pictures that you guys have put out. Where are you guys in that process? And I heard you guys are trying to get LA a no-kill city in 2 years.
Well, actually, the business plan that we put together was 5 years. But
5 years.
NKLA stands for No Kill Los Angeles.
Right.
And it's an initiative of Best Friends Animal Society. Best Friends sponsors it, and we have a coalition of about 53 local rescue organizations and some service providers, spay-neuter providers, things like that. And so it's a model that, a coalition that's designed around Los Angeles city shelters. Now, specifically, those are LA Animal Services, not county, so we're dealing with the city for the moment.
Sure.
And the intention here is to, for example, in the first year that we looked at, about 23,000 animals died in the shelters out of 56 or something that came in. And this is just sort of doing a very ballpark calculation. At least 17,000 animals that died unnecessarily. Yeah. When you dig down into that a bit more, turns out that 7,000 of those 17,000 animals were neonatal kittens. So that's kittens under the age of 8 weeks, because the shelters can't devote the time that those animals need for care and attention. And unless they're with a mother, they can't feed them. Unless you have either dedicated staff or a great foster program to get them out, those animals are just being killed. So when you think about it, 17,000 animals, 7,000 of which are just perfectly adoptable, the most adorable, cutest things in the world. Yeah. So there's no good reason for that to happen. What the NKLA campaign is about is incentivizing, promoting adoption, supporting our partners and our coalition partners with some more resources to do more adoptions, as well as providing targeted spay-neuter for the communities that need it most. There's a little formula that someone who did a lot of work in this area, a guy by the name of Peter Marsh up in New Hampshire, and he calculated that if in a given community, if you sterilize 5 animals that belong to low-income families for every 1,000 people in the general population, over a period of 5 years, you can reduce shelter intake by as much as 30%. Which is a remarkable thing. And so this is what we call generically as targeted spay-neuter. And you're targeting it and directing it and providing for the people who need it the most. So if you go into some of the zips in Los Angeles, for example, there are a lot of areas where, say, the majority of people in a household do not speak English, or the majority of people in the community don't speak English. There's no vet in the zip code. Most of the people don't have cars. Even with the best will in the world, how are they going to get their pet fix? Well, they can't. So targeted spay-neuter is the idea of bringing these services, delivering these services, providing resources into the communities so that this can be accomplished. And we do this through our partners and working with them to provide grants and funding. They will go in, partner with, say, a mobile spay-neuter unit or with a local, a vet that's nearby, sufficiently nearby to drive the animals there. Target, leaflet the community, get people engaged, and provide these services where they're needed. So that's part of the NKLA operation as well. So No Kill Los Angeles is perfectly doable, and we're in the first year we reduced, we'd like to think it's we,
right.
but in any event, shelter killing was down by 4,200 animals compared to 2011. So 2012 in Los Angeles, 4,200 fewer animals died in the shelters.
That's fantastic. That's a pretty significant number.
It is significant, and we're really jazzed on what we can do in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
So NKLA is a wonderful. I mean, these images are spectacular.
Yeah.
They're very powerful, and they really communicate because really, these animals are saying they're engaged and engaging, and what are you going to do?
Right, and everything looks better in black and white.
Yeah,
it's true. Let's talk about pit bulls a little bit.
Sure.
You guys are fighting against discrimination against pit bulls, which you don't normally hear those two words go together.
Well, pit bulls, at one time, and this is way before your time, but you may have seen it on TV Land or something, Little Rascals or something like that, was known as America's dog.
Right.
Even the nanny dog. Pit bulls have become associated because of their they're strong, muscular dogs, and they have a reputation that's often undeserved mainly by association with the people who are have bred them for dog fighting.
Right.
Breed discriminatory legislation is local ordinances that ban either outright or impose some type of restriction or burden on owning a pit bull. Now, our experience with this and our assessment of it is that really all of these things are aimed at public safety. We all want safe communities. All dogs have teeth. They all bite in the wrong circumstances, without appropriate training or handled poorly or encouraged perhaps by a reckless owner. So the idea that you're making a community safe simply by doing a symbolic act of targeting or profiling, as we see in human communities at the same time, a particular segment of the community, that's just not happening, and it's not true. So it's a false sense of security, but at the same time, it pushes a lot of these animals into the shelters, and sometimes in some communities, they've had policies where they some forms of discriminatory legislation is that they can't adopt pit bulls. So once they hit the shelter, it's a one-way trip.
Right.
Now, there's no doubt that the pit bulls are a problem in our nation's shelters, simply because there are so many of them and because they're a very popular breed, and they're also very popular in the kind of targeted communities that we're talking about, where they don't have the resources properly to spay, neuter, and provide necessarily veterinary care and support for the animals. So a lot of the work that we're doing is both, on one hand, providing that kind of attention towards things like spay, neuter. On the other hand, education and support for people who, to provide local communities with proper dangerous dog legislation. There is a place for dangerous dog legislation, but it's behavior-based rather than breed-based. So yeah, so those are our primary areas. And again, we look at all of this stuff through the lens of shelter killing, and we want to end the killing of shelter pets towards our goal of no more homeless pets.
Well, you guys are doing a fantastic job. And tell everyone again one more time how they can get involved in any of these programs.
Well, information about any of these programs is available at www.bestfriends.org, nkla.org here in Los Angeles. We'll give you information about a lot of the rescue organizations, where to adopt, where to find spay-neuter services, and some wonderful, great things you can do for the animals.
And both of those links will be in the description below. Also, go click on the link to take the pledge to adopt your next pet. It's very important. It makes a huge difference. Francis knows.
Adopt, don't shop.
Adopt, don't shop.
And save a life.
For BFD, I'm Marisha Ray. This is Francis. We'll see you next time.